I'm just typing a little thing in the chat. So that's just sort of pinned up there.
All right. Hi, everyone that just joined. I'll wait a little bit longer. We have 24 people on so far. That's awesome.
Oh, you want to talk to cousin Lucas? Oh, you want to talk? Say hi. Say hi. Hi. Yes.
Hi, everyone that's just joining. We're just waiting a little bit longer so more people can join. There are some links in the chat already for some information.
Oh.
Got great.
Exactly. I see that because
Yes.
you have to fee max.
Right. Hi, everyone that's joining. If everyone can mute, that would be great. Later, I know we'll be able to ask questions. We're just waiting a few more minutes so that more people can join.
What's going on? Right here before he reaches the finish line. He can make some repairs to your car. You might still have a chance. A few parts.
All right, I think maybe we can get started. The waiting room seems to have slowed down, so
Okay.
to everyone that's here. And just FYI, we are recording this meeting, so if you do have to sign off early, it will be available later. Yeah, and so I'm gonna turn off my video and audio so Deepak can present to us about science camp, and I'll just continue letting people in as they are joining. Thanks.
All right. Sure. That sounds great. Thank you so much. Is it Jamie? Did I say it right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. And we've been in contact and just setting this up and lots of other questions that have come up. So my name is Deeps, and I am the director for the Outdoor Science School here at YMCA Camp Campbell. And so I oversee the whole program and make sure it's running smoothly. I work a lot with the teachers to make sure the paperwork is in order. I make all the group lists and this cabin assignments for the students. So that's kind of my role here. And then just supporting the program and coaching and training the naturalists as well. So I've been doing outdoor education, environmental education for almost 20 years. And that just shows you that the reason why I bring it up is that I love what we do. I think it's deeply, deeply important that we have kids be able to connect with nature, but it goes well beyond that. Kids on these programs connect not only with the natural world, they connect with themselves in trying things for the first time, gaining a sense of responsibility, and taking care of like cleaning facilities that like after they eat, they clean up after themselves, that kind of thing, as well as connecting with other people. So while your school is here, there will be a few other schools here at the same time. And so during that time, there'll be two other schools. One of them is 5th grade and the other one is 6th grade. The 6th graders will be kept separate, but the other school, Central Park, which is part of the Santa Clara Unified District, is going to be here. They're 5th graders as well. And here we believe strongly in inclusivity and inclusion. And so we will intentionally mix the groups, the students from both those schools up in each cabin as well as in each field group so that they can make new friends. And so connecting with other people is a big part of our program too. And I think all those three aspects, connecting with nature, with themselves, with other people, leave like a really lasting impact for the kids. So I just wanted to give you just that brief little intro about what the kids will experience and what they'll be leaving with here. But to go into more details, so essentially the schools arrive here on Tuesday. The kids will get like an orientation to their time here to Outdoor Science School. They'll learn the rules, they'll learn which group they're in, and then they'll get like a short little tour of camp by their naturalists just in their own field group. And then they'll have their first lunch here. That's kind of one of the first things they do when they get here is have lunch in our dining hall, our beautiful facilities. And then they'll go out for what I call educational hikes in nature's classroom, right? So they'll be on trails, learning about the redwood forest. They'll also do some team building activities. We have a low ropes course, which is like low to the ground elements, where they'll get to experience that. And the naturalists basically design their programs based on their own repertoire of games and activities and lessons that they've learned over time, as well as through training. And they align their program with next generation science standards. And beyond that, we don't prescribe any specific lessons or activities that the naturalists need to do. We allow them to have the freedom and autonomy to design the program as they see beneficial. And then, throughout the program, so that one of the days they'll be spending kind of a little bit closer to camp, going on shorter hikes on trails that are a little bit closer, because each group will get assigned a time slot to go to the pool. We have a beautiful swimming pool here that has trained lifeguards that are running it and a whole aquatics team. So they'll get 1 hour at the pool and they'll have a sort of a swim check where they'll just check on some certain basic skills. The pool is only 4.5 feet deep at the deepest. So, the swim check is just to see, can they swim without or be in the pool without a life jacket? If they don't pass that swim check, or at least complete the swim check successfully, it's all good. They can still get in the pool. They just have to wear a life jacket and be within arm's reach of a cabin leader, a high school volunteer, or one of our staff members that are in the pool. And then beyond that, they'll have a full day of activities, 9 to 5. They will, on the first day, they will choose, they'll vote on choosing one sort of traditional camp activity that they'll do between 4 and 5 on the Wednesday and Thursday. And so those are a large assortment of things that they can choose from, anything from capture the flag, gaga ball. They'll do this game where they gotta do shelter building in the forest. They can do snake feeding. They can do archery. We have an archery range here. Not every student will get to do all those activities. The students will vote on that, and we give the groups ideally their top choices for the types of activities that they want to do. One of the other days, either Wednesday or Thursday, they will go on a longer, what's called a picnic hike. They'll pack a sacked lunch in the morning with a big sandwich bar where they can make all the different types of sandwiches that they want to have for themselves. They'll put that in a little paper bag, and they'll take that with them in their backpack. And then they go on trail, and they're on trail all day from around 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. And there's a couple of different longer trails that we do. They're not exceptionally difficult, and the naturalists adapt the program to meet the needs of the entire group. But they'll go to either a place where they get to see the old growth redwood trees, or to a hike we call the Ridge, where they get to see like a little bit broader vista of the Santa Cruz Mountains and the San Lorenzo Valley. So, and then there's the last day, which is a short day because the schools depart around lunchtime. And so they'll have like a short little closing with their group. They'll do a closing ceremony with the naturalists, and then we dismiss them to the buses. So that's the program. But I always think, like, whenever students come here, and I imagine a lot of you as parents are wondering this too, like, they're often the first thing that they're thinking about isn't, will I see a banana slug, or will I see an animal? What is this program going to be? They're wondering, where am I going to sleep and what am I going to eat? Those are the two most important things that people are concerned about. And so I'll dive into detail about what that's going to be. We have 2 villages of cabins, they're called. There's one, it's like an area where there's different cabins. One's called the 49er Village, and the other one's called the Treetop or Brandenburg Village, where we have cabins kind of built up into the trees. They're really, really nice quality. If you take a look at the video that I posted in the chat, you can have a glimpse of like sort of what the interior of some of those cabins are. The cabins are around 14 or between 14 and 18 beds, depending on which village they're in. And we always ensure that at least one bed is reserved for a cabin leader, which is a high school or college age volunteer that is supervising the kids overnight in the cabin. So and I will reshare the video. It's just, if you scroll up, I had a message there saying, unless you join a little later, I'll share it again at the end of the presentation, just so you all have that. Okay. So yeah, the cabins, basically the way they're made up is, to rewind a little bit, the teachers will create what's called a buddy list, and they're going to ask the students, like, who is someone you want to make sure is going to be your friend, like, throughout this whole trip, or maybe a couple of people, or maybe the teachers know there's certain dynamics between students that's going to work best. They will kind of group the kids into these buddy groups, sometimes truddy groups, right? 3-person groups. And they'll send that list to us. And then using that, we preserve those buddy groups or truddy groups. And we keep the kids who, like, they're going to need at least a friend to have. And we create the cabins based using that. So the cabins are separated by gender. There'll be male cabins, there'll be female cabins. And the students will get assigned to one of those cabins with one cabin leader, like I said, high school or college age volunteer that is here for the week, who will supervise that cabin. Then we combine 1 or 1.5 cabins together to form a field group. And so that ideally, that field group is going to be mixed gender. It's going to be also mixed schools, because the students will be in each cabin. We'll have students from other schools in the other school in their cabin as well as in their field group. And so group sizes are average around 20 kids, 18 to 20 kids. And that's basically how we create the cabins. Each cabin has 2 bathroom stalls that are private. We also have 2 shower stalls, which are also private. and the shower stall has like a separate curtained off changing area before you enter the actual shower, and those are all kind of private. So students have a private place to change, to use the shower, to use the bathroom, all that stuff. The beds are just basically a mattress, so students you'll be getting a packing list from the teachers if you haven't already, and it should include information about bringing a sleeping bag, potentially a pillow, but they can also make a makeshift pillow, and then maybe a book. We don't allow electronics on our program, so please don't send any phones or Kindles or tablets or anything like that. We don't really get cell phone service here anyway. Plus, those are expensive equipment that students, they're out there hiking, they're doing kind of rough and tough activities. We don't want that stuff to get damaged, so we just don't allow those kind of electronic devices out here. So that's basically how the cabin groups are made. Now, I mentioned the cabin leaders, the high school volunteers. So a little more information about that. We have a volunteer manager that does a lot of work to recruit these volunteers, and they come on Monday. And so because the students are coming on Tuesday, on Mondays, those cabin leaders receive a full day of training, and they learn about group management, behavior management, how to respond to students that are missing home, how to supervise kids in the cabin overnight and keep them entertained, games and things that they can do with them to keep them occupied. And then they also get a very extensive child protection training during that first day. So it's very, very thorough. In addition, in the recruiting process, those cabin leaders are vetted. They have to be in good academic standing at their schools, at their universities. They also have to have a positive reference from a teacher or some kind of school staff person in order to be selected for their program. And then each cabin leader, if they complete their week successfully, they always do, they get 87 hours of volunteer hours as a credit for the time that they spent volunteering here. And, for a lot of high schools, in order to graduate, you need to complete a certain number of community service hours. And this kind of completes that whole thing. So that itself creates a motivation and a vested interest for these cabin leaders to be very successful and put a lot of effort into it because they want to get those hours. They don't want to have that denied to them. So, anyone that is 18 over, if they're in college, they also get a fingerprinted and have a background check that's done on them because they are now not quite minors anymore. Okay. Now the other thing, like I said, where am I going to stay? That's one big question. The other question is, what am I going to eat? So to talk about the dining hall, meals are provided in the dining hall, family style. So each student is assigned to a table, and each table has 10 seats. One seat is reserved for the cabin leader. So there's 9 students at their table. And because the students are already kind of with their friend groups or buddy groups in the cabin, as well as in the field group, we try our hardest to really encourage them to branch out. So we really split the students up and mix them up during meal times. So they might not necessarily be with their best friend. They'll probably be with somebody from their own school, but it'll be maybe people they don't always interact with. And hopefully during that mealtime, they have a chance to talk to people that they don't typically talk to and get to know them. At the beginning of the meal, each table will pick one student to be what's called a hopper. They'll come up to the front of the dining hall and grab a tray of food and bring it back to their table. And then the students, just like a family, will serve themselves family style. We'll announce seconds and thirds, and they can do multiple trips. We provide a very, very nutritious, really high quality food, almost without fail every single week. It is the thing that the kids say is the highlight of their week. Is the food here is fantastic. It really truly is, and I'm not just saying that. It's pretty amazing. The menu is variable. They change it up, week to week to try new things, but it's very kid friendly, but also nutritious things. They'll have a pasta night, like a taco night. They'll do pizza for lunch one day. They'll do burgers. They'll do kind of like barbecue chicken with like vegetables on the side and that kind of thing. And then every meal has plenty of dietary alternatives for people that need that. So we have vegetarian alternatives. We accommodate people that are dairy free, that are gluten free, that are vegan, vegetarian. If they don't eat soy, kind of the most common food allergies and dietary restrictions, we'll be able to accommodate here. Students that need those dietary alternatives basically kind of skip the whole getting the food from the tray. They go back with their plate directly into the kitchen, and they have those dietary alternatives available for them. And then there is also at every single meal, there'll be a sun butter and jelly sandwich making station, as well as a large bowl of fruit. So if kids are like just not liking the specific item that's on the menu that day, they have that as a backup that they can, use. And in very extreme cases where a student is just like really struggling to eat, we will work with that student in the kitchen to sort of find something that they're going to like. We want to make sure no student is going hungry while they're here. And so, yeah, that kind of covers the meals. Now, a couple of other things. We have a health office and a health team with a registered nurse and a few EMTs that staff it. They are staffed here 24 hours a day. So overnight, they have a radio, they live on site, and so they're able to be reached at 24 hours a day. All our staff, everybody else, is at least first aid and CPR trained. Some of them are lifeguards, some of them are wilderness first responders, but at minimum, they have a first aid CPR training. And the health office basically manages any student needs around medications or any health concerns. So couple of things that will happen with medications. If your child takes medications on a regular basis, let's say morning or at night, any medications that they take that are prescribed to them, you are going to hand them to the teacher on the day of departure. They should come in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag, and they need to be in their original containers. And that includes things like vitamins. They can't just be a loose bag of pills or chewables. They have to be in their original containers. And then with the paperwork that you have already gotten or will get from the school, there will be a medicine intake form. You need to make sure you fill that out and put that in the Ziploc bag with the medication, and it has to match the medication that's on there. You don't need to send any other medications or things that might be as needed. So things like Tylenol, ibuprofen, Pepto-Bismol, antacids. Our health office is heavily stocked in all kinds of over-the-counter medications, including allergy medications. In your paperwork, you'll have a list of stuff on your health form on the back side of it. And when you fill out the health history form, you can check off all the boxes of you authorize the health office to administer those as needed if the case comes up. Now, one thing around that, my philosophy is that if you haven't heard from us at camp, that's a really good thing. That means that your child is having a great time, they're safe, they're healthy, right? If there is any issue that we need to respond to, that's anything more serious than putting a little Band-Aid on a small cut, we are going to notify you. In addition to, let's say a student had a headache and it was pretty bad, and the health office gave them something to alleviate that. If they got better, we're still going to contact you because we want to make sure you're aware of the welfare of your kids. They're going to always be in touch with you if there's anything that you need to know about your kids' health. So just know that there isn't really a way for you to reach their kids here directly. However, you are welcome to send letters to kids. If you're going to send letters that are like snail mail style, we just ask that you send them at least a week in advance so that they receive them in time for them to give them to them here while they're at camp. Make sure that in the letter you somewhere indicate the name of the student as well as the name of the school so that we can get it to the right person. And then the other option, in the chat, I have posted an email address, and we can repost that for those who join later. It's redwoods@ymcasv.org. And so what a lot of parents do actually is, instead of sending snail mail letters, they email a letter to their child. And then every night we print off those emails and then kind of fold it up so we only see the kid's name. We bring that to the dining hall and give it to the teachers, and they go find the kids at breakfast and give them their mail. I will just say that ask you all to be mindful about how much mail you are sending. A few months ago, we had a student that received 24 pieces of mail in one day. And things like their doctor was sending them a letter here. I want you to imagine like another student that's at that same table at breakfast who didn't get anything sent, how they might feel if they have one kid's getting a lot of it. So I don't want to discourage you from sending kids mail, but just be mindful of, that aspect of it. Please don't send any gifts, and absolutely no food or candy is allowed to be sent. Really just letters is the right thing to send. All right. Let's see. Going back to the health office team, any medications that are rescue items, so like inhalers, EpiPens, if a student takes insulin or anything like that, because what happens is you turn that into the teachers about on departure. As soon as they arrive, the teachers come check in with me, and the first thing I do is have them go to the health office and send all and give them all the medications for all the students. The health office is going to log all the medications that are on site and which students need them. And because one of the first things that the students do when they come here is they eat their meal, their lunch in the dining hall, the health office will find every single student that takes any medications and have a conversation with them directly. So if they have a rescue item like an EpiPen or inhaler, they'll just talk to them about, hey, when was the last time you used this inhaler? Oh, it was 6 years ago. Okay, well, maybe we'll hold on to it and you can come to us if you ever need it. Oh, it's something that you used like last week and you've used it for, often. Okay, we're going to give it back to you and you can keep this in your backpack. Make sure you always have it with you. Same thing with like an EpiPen. So that conversation happens right away. The health office isn't like confiscating any medications if the student needs it, of course, right? So yeah, that's one thing there. Yeah, I think that kind of covers overall a good overview, generally like what the kids are going to experience, as well as what their groups will look like. Our naturalist team is really diverse and experienced and really well trained, and they will adapt the program according to the needs of the group, and they'll make it fun and educational. Students will learn about natural history, ecology. They'll do social and emotional learning through team building and various activities. They'll talk about human history in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and they'll incorporate arts into the program. So they'll do, musical, there's a morning music that we do where the kids sing nature-based songs. They do performance arts, like at our closing campfire. They'll learn about nocturnal animals and astronomy during their night hike, which is really more of a night stroll, I would say. They get to do like a scavenger hunt where they get to go find clues around campus on the first night as an evening program. So there's a very multidisciplinary and, a lot of different things that the students are going to learn. I think my favorite thing about these kinds of programs is that for a lot of kids, they have a lot of firsts. The first time, maybe even hiking on a trail or getting to a vista point that they can see such a vast view. Maybe it's the first time they've ever seen or come close to a banana slug. That's something that there's a lot of different firsts that kids will have here. One other thing, we also have a habitat house, is what we call it. It is a place with live animals. And so every group will get an hour-long time slot assigned to them to go there, or where the naturalists choose to go for an hour. And the students will learn about the taxidermy that we have in there, as well as the skulls of animals. And then they'll also get to interact with a few live animals. We have a couple of snakes and some turtles and some geckos. And so naturalists will sort of facilitate learning about animal adaptations in a very interactive way with live animals. So that's a pretty cool thing that the kids will get to do as well. So I think with that, I've talked for a while now. Hopefully that gives you a good overview and already answers some of your questions, but I am happy to stay as long as needed. For any questions that you have, you can either unmute yourself and ask a question or raise a hand or whatever, or just type a question in the chat and I'll just keep a close eye on that. And I'm here to answer whatever questions you have.
I have a question about learning disabilities. If you have a student who, they're all fifth graders or sixth graders, but basically they're not reading at a fifth grade level yet, is there a lot of reading that happens where they're gonna have to then like talk about what they read or write about it. Just it's sort of hard for some kids to be in a group where everyone's expected to be at the same level.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for that question. Yeah, I totally understand that. And when you fill out the health history form, you can indicate some of those specific learning needs. Our naturalists are very well trained in adapting their program to make it accommodating to every student in their group. And so they're going to be seeing that on their group list and are going to ensure that they build their program so that that student can feel included as well. There isn't a lot of reading, to be honest. We do use a student journal, and it has a lot of very, cool prompts and stuff like that. But the naturalists use that, including visual aids. They use a whiteboard really frequently. They'll kind of use, adapt those lessons and activities so that it's fun and engaging, and so every student can participate in that. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have students that have come in wheelchairs, and our naturalists are trained in being able to adapt the program so that not only the student in the wheelchair, but every other student in the group still feels like they have a really fun and engaging experience. And so the same goes true for that situation as well. Does that answer your question, hopefully?
It does, thank you.
Great. I will say, around my philosophy, my educational philosophy is that there is no such thing as a bad kid. That is truly my philosophy. I feel every kid, every child is good. And sometimes they behave unexpectedly. And I think that's how we train our staff to see things. And they respond to what we call unexpected behaviors. And they respond to it in a very positive, restorative way. So something, I know it's not quite related to your question, but just wanted to add that. I see in the chat, someone asked, do kids request a cabin buddy? So yeah, exactly. So when they tell their teachers, like, this is someone I want to make sure is in my cabin, in my group, this is the buddy I've chosen. And then the teachers will kind of let us know, and when they fill out their buddy list, and that's basically how we create the cabin groups, cabin assignments. Any other questions? There's a question in the chat saying, are parent chaperones needed? No, because unlike other programs where they do require that, here, like, we have our own volunteer program, right? And we will recruit a pretty good amount of volunteers. One other thing around that, in addition to the volunteers, we also have staff cabin leaders. They're called youth program specialists. And so what we do is, in each village, at least one of the cabins in each village will have a staff cabin leader in it. And that is designated as an emergency cabin. And they have a radio. So if over the middle of the night, if a high school volunteer has something going on in their cabin that they don't feel they're equipped to deal with, they can go to that emergency cabin, get that staff cabin leader who has a radio, and then that person, if they can't handle it, can radio a director or somebody else who's on like a leadership role, who's on call, to be able to help respond to that. So that's like a safety we've built into the program, which is making sure that there's some staff members throughout. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I see. Will there be a paraprofessional there for kiddos with IEPs? That all depends on what the student's needs are. If the student requires a one-on-one aid, like 24/7, that's going to look differently than a person that just has it during the school day. It really is a case-by-case basis. But if that is the case and the student does need a para, yeah, we'll make sure that they are able to stay in the same cabin. Sometimes the para or the aide needs to be with the student for almost all the time, but just not overnight. And they will maybe stay in the teacher cabin, but then just be with the student the rest of the time. Again, it's a very case-by-case basis, and we just defer to or kind of coordinate with whatever happens at school, and we work with the teachers to sort of let us know what the various student needs are. Okay, I see a question about what happens if kids are homesick, especially ASD kids. we actually have drifted away from the terminology of homesick because we actually call it just kids that miss home. Because oftentimes when we use the word homesick, it can actually evoke those symptoms of actually being somewhat sick, stomach ache, headache, all that stuff, nauseous. And so our staff are very, very well trained in a thorough way on how to handle kids that will miss home. We really talk them through basically getting through those feelings and validating those feelings, but getting through it, focusing on what the fun things that they're going to do. And it's common on the first day and the first night for kids to feel like they miss home a little bit. That's a normal thing. And our staff get them through that really successfully. And once they get into the next day, by the end of the week, they're instead of being missing home, they're missing camp. So they don't want to leave, right? So yeah, that's kind of how we handle that. And feel free to unmute and ask a question too.
One question that had come up on when we first started asking parents if they were interested was the option for a day camp. I know it's a little logistically different, but is that option still available?
Yeah, so that option is there. We want kids to have that experience of being here overnight, and we understand that maybe that doesn't work for every kid, and that's okay. That's for you as a parent to decide what is going to be the best for your kid. We have had a few day campers from time to time where a parent drops them off, in the morning at breakfast and then picks them up, right around dinner or something like that. That's okay, right? We want to encourage you to trust that your kids are going to be in really good care while they're here. And, I think there are some specific cases when, that's not the best arrangement. And, I think you as a parent need to decide that. But I would say for those who feel nervous about having their kids away from home for a longer time, maybe that's something you haven't done before. I just really want to emphasize as much as I can that your children are in very, very good hands and are not just at Camp Campbell, but at the Y as an organization is all built around honesty, responsibility, caring, and respect. And we live out those values to every single staff member does here, and your children will be very well taken care of, right? And if there are any issues that we encounter, of course, right, like again we said, we're going to be in contact with you. All right. Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention around the teachers is sometimes it often comes up. The parents wonder, like, well, what are the teachers doing? You have all the naturalists, and you have the cabin leaders, and you have, we have a lot of support built into our program. We have the naturalists, we have cabin leaders, we have staff cabin leaders, we have unit leaders who are responsible for overseeing meals and helping respond to unexpected behaviors and doing behavior management in the evenings when they're not in the field. And then we have directors like myself who are available on radio overnight and are assigned to being on call. So because of that extensive support structure and the health office team, right? Because of that, we tell the teachers that, we want to encourage them to observe program, be a part of different groups so they know what the kids are experiencing, but we don't force it on them. Sometimes teachers do a little bit of catching up on grading and things like that when they're here. But obviously, almost without fail, teachers will just sort of go disperse and they'll observe this group for 1 hour maybe, and see what they're doing, and then go join another group that's doing something else because they just want to keep tabs on what their kids are doing. Often they'll join the picnic hike because they want to know what that experience is like too. So teachers are out there, out and about, just kind of like not necessarily with the same group the whole time. They will be kind of floating around different groups, that kind of thing.
I'm thinking she got.
Sorry, go ahead. I couldn't hear that question. Is that Rochelle? If you asked a question, I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask a question. I had just joined the meeting. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Great. Welcome. We're just about kind of wrapped up actually. So it's more open time for questions right now. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those. Obviously, I did give quite a detailed overview of the program, but it's okay. If you have questions that you're really pressing, I'm here to answer them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you like tell me a little bit about the like what is it? I know I'm late. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah. Of when is it? Is that what you asked?
Like what is it? Like I know like it says like a camp, science camp, but what are we
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah, good. I mean, yeah, so that's what I kind of mentioned in the overview, but basically students come here on as like a science field trip. So it's an overnight field trip. They come here for 4 days, 3 nights, and while they're here, they do a wide range of activities. They have a small group of 20 students that they'll get assigned to that has a high school or college age volunteer that supervises the kids overnight in the cabin, but then also joins on trail. And then on the trail, they have a naturalist that guides those kids in sort of a variety of educational lessons from things from ecology, forest ecology, fire ecology, river ecology, to learning about animals and animal adaptations, to also doing some team building, social emotional learning, playing games, doing arts like poetry, kind of traditional arts, performance arts, music. They also learn about the history of this place that we are in, the redwood forest, and including not just the natural history but the human history here. And so they do a really wide range of activities. They have meals here, really tasty, nutritious, wonderful meals that they eat family style. They have a lot of opportunity to play, and they have free time during like cabin time and that kind of thing, shower time. They stay in beautiful cabins that just have like amazing wood and a really nice design. So that's kind of like what the experience is, right? It's just like sort of like these educational adventures in nature, and they're guided by a trained naturalist who is tailoring the program to accommodate the needs of every single student in their group and make sure that every kid feels included and can participate and has a strong sense of belonging here. So
Okay.
does that
This is
kind of give
nice.
you a glimpse of a very idea of what it is?
Right. That's nice. But where is it located?
This is in the Santa Cruz Mountains near the town of Boulder Creek.
Okay. And are we allowed to chaperone or no?
No, we don't bring parent chaperones here. We only have we have a volunteer manager that recruits high school and college age volunteers who serve as the chaperones. And essentially they get a full day of training on the first day on Monday before the kids arrive. And they're also vetted by our volunteer manager. They have to get a positive reference from a teacher at their school. They have to be in good academic standing, and they have to have that referral basically to be able to be selected for this. That's kind of how we run that. So yeah, I was just telling everybody this earlier, and I'll just tell you too. Like, if you don't hear from us at camp, then that's a great thing, because your kid is having a great time. They're safe and they're healthy. If there are any issues around your students' health or just welfare, we're going to contact you and keep you in the loop as much as possible, or not as much as possible. We are always going to keep you in the loop about your welfare of your kids if there's anything going wrong or if there are any issues.
Okay.
Yeah. Other questions here? I see in the chat, I want to go to the camp. Yeah, definitely. It's a great experience. Your kids, you're going to be a little jealous when you get back, and the kids are just going to be telling you all these stories of all the things they did and learned. Yeah. So I'm going to type this email address.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So you said like, how does that work? If see, I'm new to the school, so how would that work?
Yeah.
Like you said, our kids get picked, selected.
That's the high school volunteers. The school sends all of their fifth graders. So
Okay.
if your kid's in fifth grade, they're going to come on this field trip, right? And unless barring some kind of other factors that are going on at home and they're not able to go, that's very rare. But occasionally that'll happen. They'll still have to go to school that week. But the whole fifth grade class will come with their teachers here from Tuesday to Friday. And if you're new to the school, the teachers will sort of create buddy groups where like your kid will be get to choose like a buddy of theirs, like a friend that they want to have for the whole week, and they'll ensure that we keep them together in their cabin and in their hiking group, so that they have at least a friend. But they usually have other friends as kids that they know at school that are in their group in their cabin as well.
I think this is so cute. Like, it's really nice.
Yeah. Great, thanks.
Rochelle, I just wanted to say I can also connect with you and loop you into like the communication that has gone out with more info on the camp, because we've been like fundraising last year, and so I can connect with you offline and we can chat if you want more questions answered.
Okay, that's awesome.
Great. Well, I'll leave it open for a couple of minutes for any other questions that come up, but I just typed in the chat, I retyped the email address. Now that email address, if after we finish this call, if you have questions that are like, oh, I forgot to ask that, I should have asked that, you can just email your question to that email address and that'll come to me and I will respond, and still happy to answer any questions that you have before the kids come here. Also, that is the email address where if you want to email like letters to your kid, you can use that email address. Again, please make sure you name the name of the student as well as the name of the school, so that we print those out every night and we give it to the teachers at breakfast to disseminate to the kids. We know which kid needs to go to and what school they're from, right? So you're welcome to do that, but that's the email address that you will use. Okay, so here's one question. The thing, in case a kid needs to leave the camp and go home for any reason, do you request the parent to come pick up the kid? Yeah, so on your health history form, it's going to have a place for you to list the parents or guardians. And then it also gives the option to list any authorized people you want to authorize to pick up that child. If a kid needs to leave camp for any reason, if they're sick and something like that comes up, then we're going to contact the parents. We're going to arrange a pickup by somebody. That person has to be an approved person, authorized pickup. They also have to bring a photo ID so that we can verify that they are one of the people authorized to pick up that child. But it will be on the responsibility of the parent or guardian or the authorized pickup to come get those students. It says, how soon do you need the kid to be picked up? I mean, that kind of depends on the nature of why they're being picked up or have to go home, right? If there's something more serious, then, probably pretty quickly. That's something that we work with the parents and the teachers to sort of decide how urgent of a pickup it is, right? If a student has a fever and that's our protocol. If a student has a fever, they have to go home. If they are fever free for 24 hours without medication after they go home, they can come back. But, in a situation like that, I mean, the student is being isolated. They're going to be hanging out in the health office. I would hope a parent would want to come as soon as possible to come get their kid because they're just not feeling well, right? So it's going to be kind of dependent on the situation, like I said. But, our health office team would coordinate with the parent about what's the best. Yeah, no worries. It's my pleasure. You too, Hui. All right, with that, so like I said, you have that email address. I think we can kind of end here, yeah. And
I'm gonna
yeah.
stay on and I can go over some of the logistics as far as the permission slip forms, but you don't need to stay for that deep unless you want to, but
No, like I said, you have my email address, so if anything comes up, or it's not mine, but it's our email address, and anything that gets sent there that's kind of related to me, it's gonna get forwarded to me. So yeah, feel free to stay in touch. And then Jamie, we'll have our phone call in like a little bit, in a week or so, or yeah. Looking forward to that. So we'll kind of review anything there and then also have another opportunity to answer any questions that maybe came up that during that phone call I'll have with you. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. It was a pleasure. Looking forward to having your kids here. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of go over like next steps for camp. We just got the forms, the permission forms for camp. And Mr. Kelly is pulling the permission slips for the school district. So there's like two things that need to be filled out, the camp form and the school district field trip permission slip form. And unfortunately, we're gonna have a really super tight turnaround. So the goal is that the forms will go out to the teachers to send home with students on Monday or Tuesday, and we're going to need them back by Thursday or Friday. Because they are due back to camp by September 3rd, and September 2nd is Labor Day holiday. So, yeah, with that said, it's like as soon as the form comes home, I would just recommend starting to fill it out right then. And then as Deeps said, any questions that come up, you can email. You can also feel free to send questions to me and I can forward them along. I have about as much information as you all do. And then on the forms, I know people have been asking about the financial aid aspect. So with the form, there's going to be an intent to attend camp form. And you fill it out, you say, yes, my child will attend, no, my child won't attend. And then whether you can pay the entire amount or you indicate, I would like to request partial financial aid or full financial aid. Sorry, that's a tongue twister. And really, we fundraised a lot last year. So please, the expectation is pay what you can. The cost is $400 per student. The expectation is if you can pay that, but please don't hesitate to ask if you need any kind of financial aid, even if it's the full 400, because that's what the money is there for. And the goal is for every student that wants to attend to be able to attend. Lise Aftergut, the resource, I don't know her title, but she's at the school. She has kind of been looking over concerns of kids that might require one-on-one aid, paraprofessionals. And so if she hasn't reached out to you, I would recommend reaching out to her if that is, if your child does require a one-on-one aid. And then what was the other thing I was going to share about that? Buddy lists. So I asked Mr. Kelly just kind of how that worked. And I guess in previous years, they had the parents make the buddy lists and it kind of didn't work out very equitably. So there will be a space to indicate, yes, I'd like my child, if possible, to be grouped with this person, or if there's any kids that your kid would not be good to bunk with, and the teachers kind of already know some of that, but since they are sort of new to these teachers, you might need to help out with any suggestions on that. But with that said, it's not a guarantee just because there's a lot of moving pieces as far as like who's buddied up with who. So I would reach out to your teacher, your child's teacher, if you have specific concerns about who they're buddied up with. But it sounds like once they're in a buddy group, they're also mixed up with kids from other schools as well, which is, kind of nice. Get to maybe meet some new friends. So I think that's all the logistics stuff that I needed to go over, just mostly stressing that quick turnaround on the form. And I wish we had more time, but it's like super fast. Yeah, does anyone have questions about any of that?
I do. When does it start? When does camp start?
Oh, it's September 17th through the 20th. So the kids will go in a bus, chartered motor coach, like fancy bus, on the Tuesday the 17th, and they'll come back on Friday the 20th.
Okay. Can our kids have a cell phone or like, how does that work?
No electronics are
Mhm.
allowed, and they've said there's not even cell service there either.
Mm.
But and basically they're motto is that if you don't hear from them or you don't hear from the kid, then no news is good news, but you can send emails or send like letters or postcards ahead of time, that will, you know, so kind of give your kid a message from home.
Okay. Have you guys did this before?
Every year the 5th grade class does this, but this group, this is our first time doing it since we're 5th grade now. So the previous classes have done it, and from what I've heard, even kids that were nervous about going it loved it and had a great time. I've heard nothing but rave reviews about Camp Campbell, so
Okay.
positive. Yeah, and also I think Deeps mentioned this, but in the Camp Campbell form that comes, there will be a packing list, just so you can prepare for what your child will need. Yeah, so yeah, especially if your child has an IEP, reach out to your teacher and or lease to discuss kind of the logistics of that of a para attending. Any other questions? Oh, you're welcome, Mortish. I also want to go to camp, so I think in the summer we should all just go as parents, family camp, because Camp Campbell does camps all summer, so sounds really fun. And just again, I want to stress, please, on the forms indicate, you know, if you could use financial aid, no questions asked, please indicate that on the forms. Don't be shy. All right, any other questions?
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome. Thank you guys all for being on tonight. I know it's dinner time and towards the end of the week, so I appreciate it. And I did record the meeting, so I will send it out as well as the link and the email that Deep sent, so that we can watch the video kind of on our own time and then email any questions if anything comes up. And don't hesitate to reach out to me as well if anything comes up, either in Parent Square or I will share my email in the Parent Square message as well. Great, thanks guys.
Thanks, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Jamie.
You're very welcome.